Fast am I. It's just after midday on Monday, Jaloon the 20th of January, and this is Manx Radio's Mannin Line. It's me, Phil Gawne, L-plate securely pinned to my back, looking after things while Andy continues his well-earned break. Traditionally, the Education Minister's life involved opening new schools, acknowledging praise for the latest successful exam results, and attending school prize days and concerts. But, oh, how things have changed over the past 5 years or so. An iron grip on school budgets, teachers striking or working to rule, problems with swimming pools, concerns over exam results looking distinctly average, and criticism that more is being spent on administration than teachers. Plenty to keep us occupied for the next hour with Minister Julie Edge. So, Minister Edge, I'm guessing there is a brighter side to Manx education, but it's fair to say that you've got plenty of challenges on your desk.
Yes, afternoon, Phil. Certainly there's lots of challenges. I knew that when I went into education, having worked in a leadership team at Ballacomene for so many years. However, they're exciting challenges, and I think they are ones we need to grasp as an island and look forward and make sure we've got a vision for education, and our children from cradle to grave everybody has an opportunity for an education or to reskill, upskill, etc. And it's an exciting challenge.
Well, obviously the Mannin Line is all about our callers and people texting in, so hopefully people will do just that. If you've got a question for the Minister, or indeed if there's anything else on your mind, this dinner time, 66 13 68 is the number to call. You can also text 166 177 or email studio@manxradio.com. So I suppose, Minister, the first obvious area that is concerning a lot of people around the island, I mean, if the Education Minister is for nothing else, it's for ensuring that children have a really good standard of education. With teachers striking, working to rule, that's incredibly difficult to achieve, isn't it? So is the department doing enough, do you think, to actually address all this?
We certainly are. Obviously, we're continuing to discuss with the one union that are in dispute around the dispute that we're currently in. I think we've made significant progress, and key to all of this is to work with our unions, work with our staff. We have excellent teachers in our schools. We need to give them all of the resources that they require to make sure that we can provide a fantastic leading education system on the island. And certainly, obviously, there is always going to be challenges, and not every student progresses at the same pace. And I think these are the things we need to look at and make sure that how individual students progress, and make sure that they are supported in our schools, and also that we introduce this quality assurance framework and inspection. That's key.
But particularly, I think, with teachers working to rule, that is having probably a bigger impact even than the actual strike action. Do you understand the problems that are happening across the schools in the island, the difficulties that children are effectively missing out on so many of the out-of-school experiences? You know, it's all well and good having a classroom teacher teaching you whatever the subject may be, but a lot of the experiences that people take away from being in school are the clubs and the sport activities, the concerts, all these sorts of things. Is it not time that somehow the department and the unions got together, heads were banged, and the matter is resolved?
As you know, this dispute's been going on, I think it's 8 years, and I think we've made significant progress in the last 2 years, specifically on pay. Terms and conditions, obviously we are working with the unions and working on that. With regards to the action short of strike action, I do agree with you, Phil. It is disrupting the extracurricular that our students so look forward to, and it's sometimes the only opportunity they have to take part in some of the activities that our teachers do put on, after school clubs, lunchtime clubs, and it's that greater enrichment that students on the Isle of Man deserve. And we are doing our best to ensure we are still in negotiations with NESUWT, and as everybody knows, the strike action was called off on the Wednesday, and that was with a few conditions that they wished for us to discuss with them further. We are continuing to discuss those further with them and communicating, and hopefully we can have this resolved once and for all. I do believe we've invested greatly in our education in the last 2 years. Since I've become minister, we have increased teachers' pay. We've looked at the recruitment and retention, and uplifting our starting salary for teachers has been key to that. Gives them the opportunity to have a better quality of life if they come to teach on the island, or our current teachers that are here. And we are moving forward. Some of these things do take time, there's a curriculum review going on, and we need to make sure that we are working with the professionals who are our teachers and our educational leaders to get the best for the island and for our students and our people. And I can only apologise for the continued action, but it has been going on for considerable time, and hopefully we are making good progress.
And just before we bring Julian in, NESUWT withdrew the strike action. They pulled back from the brink, so to speak. What happened there? What changed to make them call off the strike?
As you know, in any dispute, it can change by the hour, and certainly those negotiations during the strike action continued, and agreement was reached that they would call off the second day of strike action. And I'm grateful for the continued ongoing communication and discussion with them, and hopefully we can resolve this.
Well, Minister, you'll need to put your headphones on. Julian is about to join us, well, we'll find out what Julian has to say, but I suspect it might have something to do with the Southern Swimming Pool. Julian, fast am I. Welcome to the show.
Fast am I, Phil. Nice to hear your voice.
Well,
you're doing a good job already. You sound very smooth.
Yeah, I'm not wholly sure, but we'll see by the end of the programme. Anyway, you've a question for Minister Edge.
Yes, I do. Hello, Julie. Couple of questions for you to do with operations. When will the Southern Pool be fully operational, with Sundays opening and Wednesdays being fully open?
Hi, Julian. Nice to hear from you. I do listen in quite often and hear your comments. Obviously, as you know, it's an independent board that are operating the pool. It is down to them to decide the opening hours. Agreement we've reached with them is that we will work with the Southern Pool Board to help them achieve what they need to achieve. But it is an independent board made up of the local authorities.
Right. Okay. So it's ongoing then, in terms of we won't know for a bit.
Well, you need to speak to your southern representatives and ask them what the situation is there. Obviously, from a department's point of view, we've, due to the Tynwald debate and motion, we are now going away to work on the coming back with a report in October, along with my colleague Minister Thomas in infrastructure, and we'll be working with all of the pool boards with that. But one of the agreements that was reached, that we would work and help support the Southern Pool Board, with any concerns they have, and we need to continue with that, and they need to come to us as a department.
Yeah. Another thing that I'm curious about from the report, because it doesn't really go into much granular detail, a previous manager some time ago was found not guilty of theft at the Southern Pool and was compensated as a result of being exonerated from all charges. Just wondering, how was the compensation paid, and what happened to the stolen money?
Again, as you know, Julian, that was nothing to do with the Department of Education. It's the Southern Pool Board. I don't know if it's the current board or the previous board, but any of these actions that were taken by previous managers or the chairs should have been passed over to the new school board, so I'm sure they'll be able to help you.
Was it? I mean, it's quite a while ago. Am I right in saying that you were previously on the DOI, which was managing Southern Pool at the time?
Certainly the DOI didn't manage the Southern Pool. The pool is managed by the independent board made up of local authority representatives. And
right. Just for Julian, just for clarity there, the two departments, DOI and DESC, have an involvement, but the direct day-to-day management of the pool is done by the Southern Swimming Pool Board, isn't it?
That's correct.
Right, okay. Well, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Julian. Nothing else you want to ask the Minister?
Good luck today.
Okay, thanks very much.
Thanks.
Bye.
Cheers.
Well, a couple of questions. First question actually was to me. Phil, before any questions for Julie, just one for you. Are you going to try to follow Tim Glover and Stu Peters into the House of Keys, or maybe Legislative Council, spending so much time on Manx Radio? That's from Terry Kay. No. Why? Why on earth would I want to do a stupid thing like that? And I suspect they followed me rather than the other way around. A question for Julie Edge. Is she aware that there are locally qualified teachers recently back from university who can't get jobs in primary education, while the department are taking on newly qualified teachers from the UK and paying them the relocation package? There seems to be a huge disconnect with the department HR department, and that's from Eric.
That's disappointing to hear, Phil. As everybody knows, OHR is a centralised service and a service provided to the department. Certainly happy to look into any cases that anybody's aware of. Please email me, julie.edge@gov.im. Certainly we need to be attracting our own back, especially, if they've done their training and they've been to university via the Isle of Man. We need to be looking at this and make sure we are attracting our own back, because they do have a lot of support mechanisms around them.
Richie sent a text into the programme. Could you ask the Minister if it's correct that the basic salary for a teacher is $37,000 a year pre-strikes?
No, it's going up to 36,557, I think it is, the starting salary, and that's obviously due to the negotiation and due to the recognition from this government that we need to attract good quality teachers, retain our own teachers here, and make sure they are suitably awarded, but it needs to be a sustainable option going forward for the taxpayer of the Isle of Man.
Well, I'm getting so excited here, I forgot to take an ad break, so we'll just hear from our sponsors.
Renewable energy, time to make solar electrical.
With energy bills rising rapidly, now really is the time to embrace renewable energy with Manx Solar Electrical, where the latest heat pump, solar energy and Tesla Powerwall systems will provide stable and environmentally friendly energy for an investment starting from £10,000. Invest for the future now at manxsolarelectrical.com.
When you want the best.
What's too hot in summer and too cold in winter? Your conservatory. Well, now, Phoenix Windows can convert your conservatory roof with a solid, lightweight insulated roof to turn your conservatory into a room you can comfortably use all year round. Phoenix Windows for free estimates, free surveys, bespoke made-to-measure windows, guaranteed work and all-island coverage. For your free, no-obligation quotation, call 816628 or visit phoenixwindows-iom.com.
When you need a fitting memorial or headstone for a loved one, contact Manx Memorials in Peel. This long-standing family-run Manx company offer a wide range of granite and marble headstones and memorials, along with an island-wide inscription and renovation service. Manx Memorials skilled professionals will take the time to help you choose a suitable memorial, and we're proud to say we'll beat other local quotes. Call 843-861 or email matthew@manxmemorials.co.uk.
Construction waste today.
Tells recycle for another day.
A builder skip or two.
Tells skips will bring to you.
Need quality Type 1 stone for your building or contracting job? Then contact Tells with no minimum order for collection or delivery. Call 677 137. Visit Tells Limited in Snugborough or find Tells Limited on Facebook.
Skips are what they do.
We're the guys that hire one to you.
Call Tell Skips today.
677 137.
The Mannin Line, brought to you by NetZeroMatrix.com, helping Isle of Man companies and citizens to understand net zero targets and a green future.
Well, we're joined in the studio by Julie Edge, the Education Minister. If you've got a question for the Minister, or indeed if there's anything else on your mind this dinner time, 66 13 68 is the number to call. Always a good thing to hear voices on radio. But if you wish, you can also text 166177 or email studio@manxradio.com. And several people have done just that. If DESC, Department of Education, Sport and Culture, do not fund anyone who does not have a first or 1 degree to study for a PGCE, why does it employ those people who shouldn't those tuition fees be refunded? And shouldn't, I should say. So start that again. Why does it employ those people, and shouldn't those tuition fees be refunded? So I think first or 1 degree, I assume that is. And that's from texter ending 487. Minister.
So obviously there's regulations and there's a scheme around this. So the current scheme, we do need to look at it, and we need to make sure that what we are when we're investing, and I think we need to look at what are the key skills we need on the island, and should we be looking to attract people into those areas. And some of these schemes are quite rigid in the way they have to be processed, and that's quite right, because you do have to keep financial controls. However, there are some areas we can look at. Certainly there's been challenge around bursaries for nurses and that, because they get them in the UK, but they are UK government schemes, and MHK does have the opportunity to look at that with us, and we can also look at it for teachers. But certainly if there is anybody struggling to get a teaching appointment on the island, and they are here and they're qualified, we do have supply lists, and sometimes that is a way to take a temporary position to get into our schools. And certainly I know some people think I'm qualified to primary, they can still help with supply in secondary.
And in terms of the department, one of the large areas of expenditure in the department is the support budget for teachers, for students who wish to go away to study. That's quite a big amount of money, isn't it?
Yeah, it's approximately about £14 million invested into UK universities at the present time. So these are all things that we do need to look at and make sure. Obviously, our system is different to the UK, and we support our students with their charges for the universities. We pay that, and then obviously they get a grant. But it is got a form of means testing in it. But these are all, when I went into the department, I know that we need to look at these. I know the challenges we have in trying to recruit teachers when I worked with them, and also we've got areas where we need to try and recruit and also encourage our own to come back. And a lot of the challenges around that are around there's no entertainment, there's nothing to do, and these are all addressed within the island plan, that island of, have a vibrant lifestyle on the Isle of Man. And I think we do have it, but we do need to do a bit more for certain generations.
Well, I've got loads of questions, but it is a show for the listeners, so let's have a look at some more. Can you ask Mrs. Edge, when exactly is the Road Licence Department going to bring in a 6-month road tax that they had promised to have brought this in by the end of last year? And that's from Jeff, presumably not Jeff Robinson, the Director of Highways.
You'd hope you'd know the answer, wouldn't you? Certainly I know Minister Thomas is keen to move forward with some changes to make it easier and more accessible for people to be able to do that. I'm not sure of any dates. Perhaps it's a question you could save up and ask him, Phil.
Indeed. When I was a teacher, after school and lunchtime clubs were unpaid overtime and supposedly voluntary. There was a veiled threat, however, that if you didn't participate, it would affect your pay and promotion prospects. And that's from Sue. Effectively, this is the problem with the work to rule elements of some of the union that is in dispute with the department, isn't it? Because all these things are effectively external to the main contract.
Yeah, obviously teachers have terms and conditions, But, an awful lot of our teachers work really hard. They really do want to particularly, if you think of our sports activities, the inter-schools activities, these are all the things that haven't been happening. And obviously then there's other teachers will do language clubs, there's all sorts, and it is a commitment from our teachers. And teaching was a vocation, and I think it still is with an awful lot of our teachers. And, I thank them for all that support they do. It's to ensure that we have good, rounded individuals on the Isle of Man that are coming out with a great experience from school, not just exam league tables.
Couple of messages in on WhatsApp as well. 8 years. Julie Edge should hang her head in shame, admitting on behalf of the government this dispute has gone on so long. And that's from Pete. And Pete follows up. What groups? Groups of teachers? I can't quite see that. Oh, yeah, I had the mouse over it. Groups of teachers have settled their claims, and why are some teachers still taking action? Says Pete.
So obviously I can't speak for previous administrations or government, but as I've said earlier, we've certainly moved forward in the last 2 years, and we've awarded our teachers and provided pay awards. And yes, 4 unions have chosen to accept that. We have paid it to all our teachers, even the ones in dispute. And totally agree. We do need to resolve this and move forward and look at the future of education and the vision and ensure that our students have that best experience.
Well, thanks everyone for all the texts coming in, the messages as well. I must apologise. I'm in that sort of senior moment where I'm never entirely sure whether I need me glasses or whether I'm better off without them. And the screen is just in that kind of vague, do I need the glasses? Do I not need the glasses? So apologies if I misread some of these. I'll try my best not to. Another message on WhatsApp. Too many senior staff in government making jobs for friends from the UK. And that's from Marie.
Obviously, as a backbencher, I was concerned about, the numbers and rising numbers. I think what we need to make sure as a government is we've got the right calibre of senior people, and obviously it should be the right person for the job, and to ensure that they are held to account and do that job correctly for the people of the island. I can't comment on other departments. I was quite surprised going into the department following the Beamans, and the department actually within that area is quite small if you look at the numbers, and certainly it's a very new team since Beamans, and this is what happens when you get a government report with recommendations. There's change, and it takes time to build that team, and I do think the key thing for the Isle of Man is to make sure you've got credible, professional, qualified people with the right calibre operating for the people of the island in all of our departments.
And of course, Beamans, for those who don't know, are a company that specialise in reviewing things like departmental structures to see where the weaknesses are and what have you. It is fair to say, isn't it, that when these consultants come in and they investigate, they often say what pretty much what people already knew, but were either scared to admit or maybe unwilling to acknowledge.
And I think that's you've hit the nail on the head, really, Phil. This is what I feel ministers and department members should be making themselves very aware of. What is a good streamlined structure that delivers? It should be about delivery. It shouldn't be about building layers and layers of management. It should be, how are we going to best deliver this? And it could be that it needs 10 managers, it could be that it needs one manager and lots of people on the ground to deliver, and that is key for me, that's what we should always be looking at. And when somebody does resign, we should be looking at that post and saying, what's the right fit? Do we still need a post like that, or should we be looking at it differently? And I'm pleased to say that's what happens in the department, certainly does. And although we're not involved directly in recruitment, it is something you should keep a close eye on, and I certainly look at the jobs that are available across government every week to think, I wonder what that's for. And that's just me keeping abreast of the situation myself.
The one of the questions that you had to answer in Tynwald last week was in relation to the overall spend that government has on education. And it is fair to say, isn't it, that both UK and Isle of Man lag behind the sort of developed world when it comes to the amount of taxpayers' funds or the proportion of taxpayers' funds spent on education.
Certainly, this is a comment that's made, Phil, and I have looked back and done a bit of research in it, and the percentage of spending for education and health has perhaps fallen behind a little bit, but this is why it's key, and I'm so pleased that we are doing this funding review. I've had it in my manifesto, the Chief Minister did, so it's important that it is carried out and completed, and also the people that are carrying out the review are on Ireland this week, meeting with our school leaders, meeting with unions, and establishing and gathering facts so they can come forward with a well thought through report and factual. And I think that's the thing that probably people don't appreciate. It's facts that we need to be delivering on for policy, and without those facts and having them gathered independently, which did work with the pool report because it was done by an independent, and a lot of the criticism was against the department from the local authorities. It wasn't a department report, it was done independently, and that was gathered by professionals in the field, and I think that's right. We shouldn't be making policy on the hoof, we should be doing it with factual information.
Well, listener, this is your programme. Please do continue sending in the texts and messages. But obviously, it'd be really good if we could also have some calls. But time now for another break.
Discover a great value trip away this year with Steam Packet Holidays. We have a huge array of ferry excursions and holiday packages available. Why not take a city break and indulge in culture and cuisine? Or head for a relaxing long weekend in the countryside? Take the family or just a good book? There's a Steam Packet holiday for everyone. Call Steam Packet Holidays today on 645 777 to find out more and book, or visit our travel shop in the Sea Terminal.
Spectrum Windows. If your house needs a new look and your windows let in rain,
Keep those cold breezes out
and make it look like new again.
Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Quality through and through. Great work guaranteed to you. Spectrum Windows, Spectrum Windows. Spectrum Windows.
It's B&B Furniture's winter sale, with fantastic bed and bedroom savings in our newly extended bed department, plus free bedding packs and extra gifts available with selected purchases. There's 0% finance too. On now.
When the Mannin Line's not on air, call Manx Radio to leave your opinion for broadcast on 682 631. The Mannin Line, brought to you by NetZeroMatrix.com, the world's leading carbon register and validation ecosystem.
Hardly any need to tell you how to text into the programme, because there's loads of text coming in, but I could remind you that 66 13 68 is the number to call if you want to quiz the Minister directly. So let's go into some of the texts that are coming in. WhatsApp message here. Big John here from Laxey. The government have a legal obligation to educate our children. If the boot was on the other foot, the Board of Education would have prosecuted parents. So come on, Mrs. Edge, provide cover for strike action, even if it's classroom assistants taking the kids. And I think that, to be fair, the department does, and the schools, of course, the head teachers do quite a lot of that, don't they?
They do. Certainly the responsibility to make sure they've got the right number of staff in front of students and on site any working day is down to the individual head teacher, and they have that ultimate responsibility. But as I've said, we are making strides forward, and hopefully we can come to a satisfactory resolution with the one union shortly, and hopefully that will support then putting on that extracurricular as well.
And then, is it time that teachers and other government employees who are now generally paid more than the private sector start making a more realistic contribution to their pensions instead of forcing those who earn less via taxation to subsidise government employees' pensions? It is clear when one looks at the massive underfunded liability that has built up that they are not paying what they should. And that's from John.
Well, certainly pensions has been debated many times, and obviously adjustments do get made. And certainly with regards to our teachers, they are now in the PSPA scheme on the island. They're not in the scheme that they would be in the UK. And I think that possibly has caused us some challenges in the past, because a teacher cannot rejoin the UK scheme after a break of 5 years. So if they come to the island and go into the PSPA, that can cause difficulties. However, they are paying the contributions that's stated by the PSPA, and will continue to do so. When's the next review of any of that? I'm not sure there is one on the horizon.
And it is fair to say that pensions, public sector pensions for those joining, are much better and funded and fairer than perhaps the ones from 10, 15 years ago.
So certainly the changes that have been made and to the contributions, certainly it shifted quite a way. However, when I was in the post office and dealing with the pension challenges there, we did bring in a different scheme for any new employees, so that they could choose how much they wanted to invest in their pension. So there are other options out there, but the current government scheme is as is, and everybody's contributing in accordance with what was agreed by Tim Walsh.
Well, we seem to have Eddie at one point, but he seems to have gone. Kevin, on the other hand, is on line 2. Faster, my Kevin. Oh, no. There he is.
Yes,
Sorry.
You got me?
Yeah, got you now.
Right. What it is, when you get a referral from the doctors to go to the NSC because you've got injuries and that, I'm be injured all the time now. I've got bad ankles and that, so I can't walk on rough ground. But you're only allowed to go down to the NSC twice for free. But if I was on disability, I would get it half price. But because I'm on income support, I have to pay full price. Now, I can't justify £360. I've debated it with them, and they can't give me an actual answer who makes up these rules. Now, wouldn't it be preventive, better measures, better to get people who's on income support paying half price? I know people have abused it before, and that's why they've put it down to just 2 times, and that's 2 times in your lifetime. So if anything serious happens to me again, there's no way I can go down there for half price again. Is it possible to look into this?
Hi, Kevin, and thanks for your question. Certainly this is a scheme that we work with Manx Care on, and I'm happy to take that away and look at it, because what we should be doing is trying to ensure that people have that access to ensuring that they can be back to full health and hopefully contributing back into the economy.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not going to be back to full health. But they say, you've done it 2 times now, and, now you have to go and find a way of doing it yourself. Well, I can't afford to go to the gym. I can't really walk on rough areas, because if I even stand on a pebble on my heel, I can go over. So it's ideal up in the gym when I can get on the treadmill and just walk along steadily or anything like that, and it doesn't put too much of a strain on me.
I'm certainly happy for you to email me if you've got access to an email, and obviously if you explain that. I don't know everything that happens, so it's really helpful that you're phoning in, giving me some of this information, and obviously you can have discussions with Manx Care and also Treasury and the Benefits Office.
And the email would be julie.edge@gov.im.
That's correct, yeah.
Right. Okay then, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, thanks.
Bye.
And a question in here from Robbie. Ask the Minister, how many days do teachers actually work? How many days paid holiday do they have? Do they get paid when they are on strike?
So, no, they don't get paid when they're on strike. So they do lose a day's pay or 2 days if they choose to strike for 2 days. With regards to a teaching contract, it's 195 days. Face-to-face contact with students is 190, and 5 days for inset. So that's teacher training days.
So then I'm getting a bit confused here. Where do I start with this one? Right, £50 ESO job on the Isle of Man back in October, and I'm still actually waiting for a start date. This is because I can't conjure up my GCSE certificate. So that was, who was that from? That was texter ending 386.
So I'm not sure how long ago that you're trying to access certificates from, but certainly any of our secondary schools, if you sat your qualifications with them, they should be able to find that detail for you. If not, they will be able to give you the address of the examination boards that you can write to, and they'll provide you with copies of your certificates. Excellent. I think it is they do charge though if you go to the UK, so you're best to try your local school if you went to a school here.
And then, does Julie Edge have a view on the current proposal to live stream Onken Commissioners' meetings? £4,000 to improve the behaviour of the members or the transparency the ratepayers require. That's texter ending 079.
Certainly we do need more transparency around Onken. I've never seen so much in the last couple of years go into private, and that's quite concerning. I used to go to the meetings with regards to the money that's being expended on legal fees. I'm quite aghast, really. There's been a recent report of £8,500 in 1 year. What have we had in the last 2 years? I'd be interested in. With regards to live streaming, certainly some behaviours would need to change. I've found it quite hostile environment in there, but audio would be quite acceptable at this time. But ratepayers, do they want £4,000 to put in cameras, or can we do a quicker solution with audio and get that transparency? But too much going into private, and certainly there's a lot stood in the last election saying they didn't want that to happen, but it seems to have happened.
Onken Commissioners certainly seems to have been quite a feisty local authority, doesn't it? Losing several clerks along the way. Maybe it would be quite an interesting watch.
Certainly, it is something I keep a close eye on. I look at the agendas weekly and see if there's anything that captures my eye. I think certainly there's lots of local issues that need to be addressed. And look, there's some amazing things happening. Look at Onken Park. Our ratepayers invest in Onken Park for the whole of the island, and it's a significantly high number. I think it's over 100,000 a year, which, if you think of recent debates, Onken's certainly investing for the whole island, and we do have some great things in Onken. And a lot of the actual population of Onken is the largest outside of Douglas, and but we do need stability in our commissioners, and the professionals that should be allowed to operate the authority, and the elected members should be there to do constructive challenge, not just challenge for challenge sake or personality.
It's fair to say there are different ways of running constituency politics. Many MHKs work very closely both with each other and indeed with their local commissioners. How does that work in Onken?
It's been not like that in Onken, certainly in my time. I've worked closely with the CEOs and some of the commissioners, but there's no joined up surgeries. However, there's been a recent request about that. I'm happy to do that, and I think it's having that understanding and for the electorate, really, that local politics is totally different to national, and that's where your MHK is looking at the big, broader national issues for the whole of the island. Shouldn't be focusing just on your area and investing in your area.
And of course, you don't have to be able to get on with your colleagues. I mean, I think it's a reasonably open secret that you and Rob Collister don't necessarily see eye to eye on everything.
No, we certainly don't. We work totally differently. I've always been in a very professional government career, so I do know the government operations. Some members that come in from the local authorities think it's the same as the local authorities. It's not. It's a bigger engine, lots of different things to do. But, certainly Rob and I get on as best you can as constituency MHKs. We work together on the big issues, but we're not sharing emails every night like some areas, and that's because I'm actually doing the job, and it takes a lot of time and effort and hard work, and it depends how committed you are.
a civil servant, I suspect, has texted in. Pension contributions are 10.5% for me as a serving civil servant. Pension is paid for by contributions by the current employees, not general taxation overall. And that's cheers from Onken texter ending 428. Phil has sent a message in. Could I encourage, this is to the Minister, could I encourage your department to look closely at our schools in regard to the amount of littering being liberally dropped by by the pupils and students? When I was at school, you weren't allowed to drop litter, and if you did, you were made to pick it up. Nowadays, it seems no one notices or cares about it. I'm particularly incensed about the disgusting state the grounds of Bemahage School are in. I've occasion to cycle past it fairly often, and the amount of plastic bottles, crisp packets and other litter left lying about the playing fields and school buildings is, to be honest, quite staggering. Phil has taken pictures which show how bad it is, and they were sent into the school, but the caretaker was very busy taking care of the multiple floors inside the school. What I don't understand is why can't the ones who drop all this muck be made to go out and pick it up? Is it against their human rights? To me, allowing this to happen just makes the kids into litter droppers because they haven't been educated to bin or recycle their litter. It's a poor state of affairs when there's supposed to be a biosphere looking after our environment. Doesn't seem that the students at Bemahage care much about it.
Well, we do have a Biosphere Week in our schools, so certainly this is something that I would expect to be addressed there. But, I would hope that all of our students and our staff would respect the environment they're in. Certainly, it's challenging with the lack of supervision around playtime and that at the present time, but we do need to resolve all of these things to make sure we've got the best environment for our students and they all respect it and work towards having that great environment, go to school, all respect it, and have that opportunity to, with your peers to challenge and say, why are you dropping that? And I think we're actually in a situation now that people just keep themselves to themselves. I don't know if that's post-COVID, but we need to make sure we've got a collaborative approach to everything in our schools and everybody respects the environment.
Well, as ever, as we skitter away to the end of the programme, 2 callers in. I think, who have we got first? Studio. Who's there? That's probably the best way of. Anyone hear me over there?
Hello, yeah, I can hear you. My name's Neil.
Neil, excellent. Thanks, Neil.
Hi.
You've got a question.
Tom.
Yeah, you crack on with your question.
Yeah. The lady texted earlier about she's an educational support worker or wants to be, and then hasn't been accepted the job since October. My wife's in a similar position, that she's got 8 years experience in the UK of working in this industry. She's got glowing references. She's worked with people with special needs. She's willing to start work at any point, work anywhere over the island, and yet she still can't get a job offering because she can't find a GCSE certificate from 40 years ago. And if in the UK, it's £600 per certificate to get a replacement, which is just unaffordable.
Minister. Hi, Neil. Thanks for your call. Obviously, certainly this is quite a rigid process that's done centrally by OHR. Happy for anybody to send me an email with regards to any difficulties they're having around any of our recruitment processes and see if we can look at them. And, I know it is quite expensive to get the copies from the UK exam bodies, but obviously there is ways of looking at how people get their qualifications, and perhaps there is an opportunity to go on some form of list that we can then look at it. And
yeah, because it did say or equivalent, I believe. So the fact that she can't find that, she's saying, well, I'm offering 8 years experience with references to prove I've done the job in the UK for 8 years. I've turned around the situations in many schools, yet they don't seem to recognise that as equivalent.
Yeah, and I assume that when they talk about or equivalent, they'll be talking about functional skills, qualifications, and things like that. However, happy for you to drop me a line, and we can look into it to see what is getting in the way there. And obviously, our education support officers, we do require them to have maths and English. To ensure that we've got people with the.
Well, I've got that. It's just 40 something years ago. You don't necessarily, and a few house moves, you don't necessarily find everything that you need.
Well, thanks for
got the most relevant stuff. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Neil. Sadly, we're going to have to zip on, and I think next one is James. Now, James. Gosh. I'm not sure what buttons I'm pressing. The message here, I first read it out and it said, Onken Commissioners, too much death within private. But no, it's dealt with in private.
Hello,
James,
can you hear me?
Yes, James.
Yes, can you? Yeah, well, I want to agree with what Julie Edge, and she's one of my MHKs, her Bob Collister. I want to agree with what she said about the Onken Commissioners, too much being dealt with in private. And what I think, maybe Julie will agree with me here, I think the Department of Infrastructure, which has overall responsibility for local authorities, they should now write down strict guidelines as to what should be held in public and what should be held in private. Example, you don't allocate council houses in a public meeting, fine, but there seems to be an awful lot in Onken Commissioners that's dealt with in private when it shouldn't be. And that's because some of the commissioners in there don't want the people to know what they're doing. And to be honest with you, a classic example of that is in the last year, they've spent £8,500 on legal fees. Now, I'd like to know, what exactly is it for? Is it because of the squabbling between themselves? It's just getting out of hand. This is a local authority that basically is not functioning, and the DOI seems to be unable to do anything about it. Over to Julie. What do you think, Julie?
Thanks, James, and I couldn't agree more with you. And certainly I'm aware of the £8,500. I'm aware of minutes in 2021. I'm happy to circulate them to you where certain commissioners were challenging other commissioners. And certainly Mr. Crellin and Mr. Allen, there was no case to answer. So, since there's been a change in the commissioners in the last couple of years, there is certainly more challenge, but nothing is getting proven. And I think it's a complete waste of ratepayers' money when we could be spending it on good things for our community as a whole. And totally agree with regards to too much in private. DOI do provide guidelines out, and I can assure you any challenges that I have for Onken Commissioners, I bring them up both with Onken Commissioners and the DOI.
Well, thanks, James. Sadly, we're running out of time, so if we can now go to Julian. I'm not quite sure which buttons I'm pressing here. That's the one. I don't know. Is Julian on line one? Julian, are you there?
Hi, Phil.
Yeah, marvellous. You ask the minister. We've got two or 3 minutes left.
Yeah, it's only a quick one. I just thought I'd do a double try today as Julie's on. As far as the teachers' striking's concerned, I'm hearing quite a few reports around the island of children in schools identifying as what they're calling themselves furries, like cats, and the teachers are having to indulge them with kitty litter and bowls of water in the class. I understand another child is identifying as a submarine now and making sonar noises as primary form of communication. I'm just wondering, what's the Department of Education's position on that? And is there anything done about it, or have you looked into it?
Certainly I have looked into it, and I can assure you there isn't any of those activities with our teachers putting cat litter trays down. We need to look into all of these things. We do look into them, and we take any action that's appropriate. I think what we need to do is make sure that our teachers have the opportunity to be in front of our students, supervision at break times and after school clubs, and we will see changes in our schools. I'm disappointed, Julian, because you're normally on with Eddie, and I haven't heard from Eddie today, but we have been in communication.
Or maybe there's been a lightning strike.
Well, thanks for that, Julian. I think now, there's loads and loads of texts in, which I'm afraid we're not going to get time to get to. But one in here. A couple of questions for you, Phil. Beth said she was covering for Andy for 2 weeks. Has she been disciplined for mentioning Michelle Moan and Douglas Barrowman on Friday's show? No, she's at a meeting, and she'll be back tomorrow. And secondly, you were asked on that show if you considered the news regarding Moan and Barrowman's conduct a UK story like Andy Wint does. Well, it sort of is, isn't it? It's primarily a UK story, but obviously they live on the Isle of Man, so there's a Manx context. And don't be so suspicious if you think that I've disappeared tomorrow. That's because I wasn't due to be there anyway, so no disciplinaries or any of that. Loads more in. Just wondering why we have education support persons in the classroom. Are the teachers today so poor, hence exam results? Well, I think that's possibly a little fair. Loads of extras for them to do, teachers to do in terms of bureaucracy, which is sadly necessary these days. Litter in Westbourne Drive, Douglas from Ballacameen High School is appalling. But that is actually all we have time for today, and indeed on this murky day, thank you to Minister Edge for bringing light to our understanding of the work of her department. Thanks to Chris Quirk for producing and Paul Moran for acting as my lifeguard in case the knobs and dials got the better of me, and particular thanks to you for your company and contributions. Rest easy. Beth will be back tomorrow, and remember, if you think of something you'd like to mention when the Mannin Line isn't on air, out of hours number is 682631. You can leave a message which may be played out on the show. Coming up next, it's Nairn's Tree with Christy D.
New year, new sensational savings. It's our biggest ever January sale at